what decision they'll make at the county assembly when they're voting. Now, Kenyans remain jittery following the sharp increase in fuel prices announced by IPRA in its latest review. And there are concerns about the likely trickle-down effects of the high fuel costs, as they already have to contend with the adverse effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and reinstatement of various tax measures this year. KTN's News Emmanuel Tool spoke with a section of Nairobi residents for whom this event wouldn't possibly have come at a worse time.
It is the sharpest increase in fuel prices since July 2019. The Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority (IPRA) announcement was not the best of news as Kenyans joined the rest of the world to celebrate Valentine's Day. A spot check by KTN News has revealed that super petrol, which was retailing at 106.99 shillings, has jumped to 115 shillings, while diesel and kerosene shot up by 5 shillings respectively. For Anthony Musembi, a father of 6 who has been jobless since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, the move has added salt to injury. He can barely afford to pay for his rent here in the squalid and overcrowded Mukuru kwa Ruben slum.
Kwa saa sina job. Hapo kabla ya hii COVID-19 ianze, nilikuwa nikifanya na China. Nafanyanga kazi ya mbao, ya yote ipatikana, unda hii kabati hata, lakini mbaya ni moja. Hata ukiunda kupata mteja ni shida, njoo hakuna pesa kweli. Lakini ukiangalia familia iko na ile kulingana vile watoto wako kwa masomo na kufidi, naona huku sina nyumba, huku ni ya kukodisha.
His only source of hope has been this picture, which keeps his optimism alive, living each day at a time. His already difficult life has been worsened by the COVID-19 containment measures.
Wafanyikazi wale matajiri wakitoka kazini, wanakujanga wanatupea kazi. Sasa hiyo umepewa kazi, kujitayarisha, hiyo masaa kafi imefika. Kazi utafanya haitafanyika. Sasa itakuwa sasa ni kuomba, sasa hiyo unafanya na wasiwasi, unakuja na ngojea.
His plea to the government is to look for alternative ways to finance its largest of all times 3 trillion shillings budget for the year 2021-2022.
Wako na njia mingi sana ya kupata pesa. Na kulingana vile imepanda na 80. Kinani unajua pesa mingi sana. Na ukiangalia kwa mtu wa chini sana, kila kitu yaanza itapanda, itakuwa kama sisi tunaishi, hata sijui wanyama atakuwa at least.
Kenyans on the streets have also expressed their dissatisfaction with the government's move as the effects start to pinch. The government has taken a tough stance on funding the ambitious infrastructure projects, hoping this will spur economic activity at the expense of overburdening citizens with high taxes.
Mafuta sio sisi watu tunapandisha, serikali yenyewe ndio inaweka bei ya mafuta. Na ikishaweka bei ya mafuta inatutangazia tunapandisha.
Okay. Tunaumia watu wa Uber.
Ikifika kwa mteja tena inakuwa ngumu kwa sababu wanajua bei tayari. Sasa kuongeza nao inatukalia ngumu kwa pande yetu. Sasa itabidi tuumie tu.
Mimi ningependa kama ni kitu ingepandishwa kama mafuta ya ndege hivi. Mafuta ya ndege maybe, lakini hii mafuta ya kawaida, Mkenya wa kawaida sio mzuri kupandishwa kwa saizi.
Kenyans will now have to brace themselves for hard economic times, even as the effects of the increased fuel prices continue to bite. Emmanuel To, KTN News, Nairobi.
As Kenyans struggle to adjust to the newly revised fuel prices, KTN's Noah Kipkemboi explains just how these prices got this high.
Before settling from a difficult 2020, Kenyans are yet to come to terms with the new prices. The latest figures of fuel pump prices from the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority were marked by huge adjustments, with super petrol skyrocketing by 8 shillings and 19 cents, diesel by 5 shillings and 51 cents, and kerosene by 5 shillings and 32 cents. So, how were these figures arrived at? First, IPRA noted that the landed cost, which is the total charge associated with getting an oil shipment to the port of Mombasa, had risen. The average landed cost for super petrol shot up by 20.93%, of diesel by 13.64%, and that of kerosene by 14.6%. The cost of MAB and crude oil lifted in January also grew by 11.5% to $55 and 27 cents per barrel. Early last year, MAB and oil price had crashed to $17 and 64 cents due to economic slowdown from COVID-19. After the product has landed in Kenya, Another cost that is factored in is the transportation, storage and distribution charges. These charges include pipeline transportation from Mombasa to Nairobi, pipeline and depot losses, and delivery costs to petrol stations within 40 kilometers of Nairobi. The companies that have purchased the oil products, known as the oil marketing companies, also add their respective margins to recoup their investment. Finally, taxes and levies add up to the final straw to retail fuel price. In July 2020, the government increased the Petroleum Development Levy from 40 cents per litre to 5 shillings and 40 cents. Other levies are Road Maintenance Levy, Petroleum Regulatory Levy, Railway Development Levy, Anti-Adulteration Levy, Merchant Shipping Levy, and Import Declaration Levy. Excess duty, which is adjusted annually to align with inflation, rose by 1 shilling per litre for super petrol and 50 cents for a litre of diesel and kerosene. The value-added tax, currently at 8%, is also factored in. So, to get the final retail price for fuel in Nairobi, the product or landed cost is added to distribution and storage costs, marketer's margin, and taxes and levies. Nokip Kimboi, KTN News.
Now, matatu and bodaboda operators have vowed to hike fares following the decision to increase fuel prices. The move has seen Kenyans express their worry as they stare at difficult times, given the fact that they are still recovering from the effects of COVID-19. Alan Ochendo spoke to matatu operators in Meru. Listen in.
Well, the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority has hiked the prices of petrol, diesel and kerosene. Remember that a litre of petrol was costing 110 shillings, but now is going at 118 shillings, whereas the price of diesel per litre was costing 99 shillings, but now is going at 105 shillings, and it's really causing an uproar among matatu operators and, of course, boda operators who are saying that to ensure that they recover the money that they will be spending on the petroleum products, then they will be forced to ensure that they hike the fares of their passengers. And so these are problems that will now be trickling down to the passengers who are actually depending on matatus and bodabodas as the main means of transport. And so when they will be shouldering these prices, remember that they are just straight from a pandemic, and so they are quite injured in as far as economy is concerned. And so we've spoken to some of the matatu operators and boda operators, and they are saying that they'll be forced to ensure that to cushion themselves against these harsh economic conditions, they'll be forced to ensure they actually hike the matatu prices.
Sasa sisi hatuna option nyingine ila kupandishia abiria wetu bei. Kwa ajili hata wale abiria tunabeba ni wachache. Tunabeba abiria 7 na tunabeba na 280. Sasa tunaona tunaweza fikisha hata 320. Kulingana na bei vile ya mafuta imepanda. Lakini hapa tunaomba serikali iingilie kati, at least hiyo bei tupunguziwe. Juu hapo wenyewe wanatufinya na kazi ni mbaya.
Sasa mimi naona kama serikali itaangalia upande wetu, tutarudisha bei ya kawaida. Juu kama sisi yangu ni 6 na beba watu 11. Sasa hii nabeba watu 7. Hiyo unaona hakuna bei hapo. Sasa naona nitarudisha watu 11. Kama serikali itaangalia, maana juu abiria wenyewe waongezee kutoka hapo sasa kuenda 280, hiyo ni shinda. Wawezi lipa 300. Nairobi, Isiolo tu Nairobi ni 12. Sasa hii wanalipa ngiri, na hata hiyo 12 ni ile kuzimbuana. Unaona, sasa naona hapo tu serikali tuangalia juu mafuta ni bei. Miguu naye ndio hiyo. Magari barua sinataka. Serikali na kila kitu inaitisha, sijui COVID-19 sijui nini. Unaona hizo vitu zote wanatuitisha na bei ni ile ile. Kwa hivyo kama wataangalia, sisi tunarudisha bei, watu 11 ndio nitakuwa nikibeba.
Wateja wetu, kwa sababu tuko na customers na watataka kubebwa na watataka kusafirishwa, tunasema wasisikie mbaya wakati wa mahali tunawapelekanga na 50, wakati wataona tumeongezea shilingi 20 au shilingi 30, wasisikie mbaya kwa sababu mafuta tayari imepanda, na imepanda na pesa mingi sana, zaidi ya shilingi 10. Kwa hivyo ikiwa imepanda hivyo, hata sisi tutaongeza kitu kidogo, customer wasisikie mbaya na wasinununike, kwa sababu hiyo ndio hali ya uchumi.
Remember that even as matatu and boda operators insist they will be hiking their fares owing to the hiking of the prices of diesel and petrol, those who shall be suffering, because remember that even as they hike the fares, it will be trickling down to the passengers who depend on matatus and bodabodas as the main means of transport from point A to B. Remember that Meru County borders the counties of Embu and the county of Isiolo, and so passengers here apply those routes. These actually to and from the counties of Isiolo and Embu. And so remember that such distances cost roughly 250 shillings, but now because the fares shall be hiked, they may now be, the passengers may be forced to cough to a maximum of 400 shillings. And so that's actually doubling the current fare price, the fares that have been coughing at the moment. But remember that we've also talked to some of the passengers to just tell us what really awaits them.
Sisi tunahisi ya kwamba tunaumizwa kwa sababu hizo magharama ambazo saa hii zimepanda. Hizi tunaona kabisa hapo serikali inastahili tushughulikie, kwa sababu hakuna namna nyingine. Na hii wakati juzi tulikuwa na shida ma corona, saa hii fedha saa hii hakuna, na saa hii tunasikia kwamba mambo ya petroli imepanda. Sasa sisi kama wananchi tunaumia, ambayo tunastahili serikali waweze kutushughulikia katika mambo ya kuteremsha mambo ya mafuta.
Hii mambo ya government kuongeza mafuta inatugharimu sana sisi abiria. Manake tunapitia wakati mgumu sana. Wakati huu ambaye Kenya imefinywa na hii janga la COVID-19. Sisi kama abiria tunapitia hali gumu sana. Sababu hata hali ya mapato imedidimia. Hasa wakati uko nyumbani, useme umetravel kwenda Nairobi, unaumia sana wakati huu.
Remember that the matatu operators have not been carrying to full capacity owing to the laid down directives by the Ministry of Health so as to achieve the social distancing. So, for instance, the matatus that carry 14 passengers have been carrying 7 passengers because the Ministry of Health has actually given directive that no matatu should exceed the 60% of its capacity. And so to do so, to actually hike the prices at the pump, actually these are double tragedy for the matatu operators, because remember they've been carrying half capacity, and this is a situation where now hiking the prices at the pump. And so the only solution they have is to hike the prices, or rather the fares for the passengers. But remember that Court boss Francis Atwoli had condemned this step by EPRA, terming it as a form of impunity and just calling on the government's intervention so as to cushion both the operators and the passengers. And so also just terming it as maybe some cartels in the energy and petroleum industry calling the shots and skyrocketing the prices at the pump. But remember that it's a situation maybe we want to see if the government will intervene and cushion the common mananchi, because remember that the country is just reeling from the effects of the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, where businesses, small business were quite largely affected. And so even as much as they have not really fully recovered, they are now being confronted with another trouble here, where fares are actually now being skyrocketed here. But remember that it's not just the fares, because remember that all the other commodities, be it in the supermarket, actually their prices are actually dependent on the prices of the petroleum products. And so the Kenyans should just belt up and wait. They're actually staring at quite difficult times ahead. But remember that let's wait if the government shall be intervening according and actually just heed to the call by Kotu boss Francis Atwoli, and ensure that maybe they ensure that the prices of petrol and diesel go down as the prayers of the Kotu boss.